It's our survivor testimony, Indigenous peoples. Duncan Sr is a Native American from the Apache Tribe, born on the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation in eastern Arizona. He's an accomplished Native American Apache cultural teacher, singer, flute player, artist, and storyteller. He is a fantastic storyteller. I imagine you do all the other things wonderfully, but I've heard the storytelling, and actually I've heard some of the flute too. He has lectured on American Indian culture across the United States and throughout the world, including the United Nations in Geneva, the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts, and the Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian. So give Ken the floor and welcome Ken to our conference. And always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. But I'm really happy to be here. With all the things that are going on in the world, we really need to put the message out more that we all need to be aware of all the things that we need to do as a people to get along. I just introduced myself in Apache. I always acknowledge my mother's people from which I come, and then my adopted family, my father's people. That is how Apaches always introduce themselves. We never forget our lineage. We never forget our relatives. And so that's how we always start our introductions. I was very honored to meet one of the gentlemen. Where did he go now? Let's see, one of the speakers here, but he must, oh, there he is right there. Okay. He said he's traveled all over the world, and he's going to go to Sweden, I think, after this. My wife and I used to travel a great deal as well, but the longest I can sit on a plane now is maybe 3 hours. I've been flying since I was 18 years old. My wife and I have been to over 160 countries on behalf of the U.S. embassies. The State Department asked us to be their cultural attaché. So we were sent to embassies and consulates all over the world. And the Department of Defense also asked us to be their cultural liaison. And as such, we were sent to American military bases, UN and NATO bases throughout the world. And I spoke on humanity, I spoke on values of life. And so I think this is almost like the end of my 16-year run here. So I'm going to stay home and explore Arizona. That's what we're going to do. So I was very honored to be a cultural teacher throughout the world, but I still continue being a teacher. As soon as I am finished here, my wife and I have to leave because I'm driving for 2.5 hours to the east to the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation, where I am the cultural teacher instructing those Apaches that lost their Apache language how to regain our traditional way of communicating. Apache language is very unique, and I think most languages are like that. I would encourage everyone to see how the old traditional languages were versus what language is spoken now, because traditionally the Apache language teaches respect. An example, my father, my 2 brothers, and my sister and I were sitting at a dinner table with my stepmother, bringing us the food, and she joined us. As we started eating, my younger brother forgot himself, and he said to my father, "Pass me the salt." And my father stopped. He looked at him. He said, "What did you say?" And everyone got quiet. He said, "Oh, Shita, my father, hunt Iyugo, if you will. Would you please hand me the salt?" Is how he corrected himself. To an elder, someone older than you, you speak a different language where you give them the honor. But to anyone that's your age or younger, Ishishan is okay. Hand me the salt. They're your equal or they're younger than you. So I think the languages played a big role long ago in teaching the younger generations how to be respectful within society. I think all the languages being lost is a result of what is happening now. Children no longer respect their siblings, their older siblings. Children no longer respect the elders of the house. Another example, we went fishing one time, and my uncle was the driver, of course, and I was 15 years old, the oldest of all of my brothers, my cousins. When the fishing was done, we all threw our fishing rods in the back. And all right, let's go, he said. And he opened the door on the passenger side. Everybody rushed to the truck, but only for a few steps. They stopped. And everybody looked at one another, and they all looked at me. That meant that as the eldest, I had first rights to ride shotgun. Nobody would take that seat unless I said, I'll sit in the back, you can take my seat. It was a pecking order. Then the next oldest, then the next oldest, then the next oldest had the right to sit in the cab. All the small children had to sit in the back. There was like an invisible wall that appeared. All the little Apache kids just stopped. They had to honor tradition, honor your elder. A lot of those things are being lost today. And I believe that is why we are in this chaotic world that we live in now. My grandmother is the one that raised me. My grandmother, Shichene. We call our father's mother, Shichene, in Apache. We do not simply say grandmother. We acknowledge which grandmother it is. Shichene is my father's mother. Shiwuye is my mother's mother. Shinale is my father's father. Shichuye is my mother's father. That is how we acknowledge their place in the family. And so that type of respect is reinforced. Why am I talking about all these? There was a time, a dark moment when my mother was taken from us. I was 4 years old. My sister was 3. My brothers were 2 years old, and my youngest brother was maybe 10 months old. Still in an Apache cradle board. She was going to prepare breakfast for my father before he went to work. And there was a gas leak. And the whole building, the whole kitchen exploded, taking my mother from us. And my father, coming back from a recent trip from Korea where he served, was left with 4 little children, not knowing how to raise them himself, just being in sorrow over losing his 27-year-old wife. He was just 30 years old. My mother left at 27. When I say that, it's so young. He turned us over to his mother, Shichene and Shinale. So my father's parents were the ones that raised me. They did a very good job raising us. Now I'm a consultant on Apache culture, Apache language, Apache history, Apache traditions. So I didn't realize I was going to become a resource person as I was growing up under the guidance of these old people. But suddenly there came a time when a social worker appeared at our door, and she knocked on the door, and my grandmother answered the door. My grandmother did not speak Apache English, and so she says, "Kenny, come here. There's a white woman at the door. What's she going to say? What does she have to say?" And I said, "My grandmother can't speak English." She said, "She wants to know why you're here." And she just said that she was checking on the children. That's all she wanted to say, but she'll be back later with the translator. And so she left. That was the beginning of our boogeyman in our world. Years later, we realized that this social worker was working with families in Tucson and the Phoenix Metro, providing them with children that could not have children. They were plucking children from the reservations and placing them with families, skipping the aunties and uncles, and they were trying to take us away. And so they would bring the tribal police. But the tribal police had pity on us. The tribal police told my grandmother, when we come to your house, we're going to go ahead and rev up the engine when we're turning into your driveway. After that, we're going to honk the horn 2 times, and then we're going to pause and we're going to honk it again for the 3rd time. If we honk the 3rd time, that means the social worker is with us. That should give you time to hide your children. And so that happened many times. She would bring the police, and the police always gave the signal, and we scurried down into the forest. We lived not too far from the river, from San Carlos River. The cliff was only maybe like 75 feet away from our house, and there was lush willow, cottonwood, and the river down below. And we would disappear into the thickets. And my grandmother would say, "Do not come out until I called you 5 times. After the 4th time, I will wait and wait, and then I will call you again. That means they're gone. You can come back up." So we had a signal as little children not to be taken from my grandparents. And so I had that boogeyman growing up all those years until finally we were able to be free of her. We got old enough where we could go to school, high school, and my father remarried, and he finally was able to take us in. But I got married to my high school sweetheart, and we moved back here after going to college out of state. We had 3 children, I believe. One was just a little toddler, barely walking. She, being from North Dakota, she wanted to go ice skating. So she took the 2 older children to go ice skating at Thomas, what is it? Tower Plaza. So she took the 2 older ones, teaching them how to ice skate. I was sitting with the little one out in the hallway. They were done, so they started coming down the hall. I could see them coming. And all of a sudden, from a corridor comes a couple of people. This was years later. I was maybe in my late 20s. And she was my boogeyman when I was maybe 10, 9, 8, 7 years old. All of a sudden, this lady, old lady, is helped by her young granddaughter. And she's hobbling along. And she goes, "Stop." She goes, "Oh, such a cute little boy," she said to me. I said, "Thank you." She goes, "You know, I used to work on the San Carlos Apache Reservation long ago as a social worker." And she said, "My name is Mrs. Stickney." Oh man, I had chills going down my back. That old woman was the very person that tried to swipe us from our family long ago. My wife came up and I said, "Remember the stories I told you about that scary lady I grew up with? That is Miss Stickney. That's her right there." She goes, "Oh, where is she?" And she stood up and she saw the old lady walking out the exit with her granddaughter helping her. So she was able to see my boogeyman that I grew up with. Over a dozen times we almost got swiped by that woman. And so I want to say thank you to the Creator in watching out for us, that my sister, my 2 brothers, and I were able to remain on the reservation. As a child growing up, a lot of the children lost the ability to speak Apache. But for me, living with my grandparents, the only language we spoke in the house was Apache. And so I became very fluent in the Apache language. But today when I go teach and when I go speak to other Apaches, many of them have problems speaking Apache. And so that's a result of them taking our language away from us. Many of the children were removed forcibly, and they were taken to boarding schools out of state. Many of them were taken to California, to Nevada, sometimes even up to Oregon and up into the Dakotas, where they were put in boarding schools. And many times they were not allowed to come back even during summer break. They were made to work and help around farm fields in that area where people needed help. And then they started school again when school began. And so I was one of the fortunate ones that was raised on a reservation. I went to school there, and I was very fortunate to still be able to call myself Apache. And I still retain my tradition. And so I still walk as an Apache. And if you see my earrings here, this is not for decoration only. My grandmother used to tell us, you wear this earring as an Apache. When I first pierced your ear and I put that sinew through there and I tied a small turquoise stone on you, I prayed to the Creator that with this ear, every time you put your earring on, you might be reminded to use this ear to listen to the voice of the Creator. And she said, and with this other earring, when I put that on, I prayed to the Creator that He remind you that you need to listen to your elders, those that have walked further along the path of life. So these earrings also represent a purpose of respect. So I also wear my turquoise necklace here. This is the medicine stone of my Apache people. We carry as men the seed of life. And so turquoise represents the blue sky coming down in the form of rain, mixing with the green shrubs, all the foliage. The two colors, blue and green, coming together form turquoise, and it brings forth life. And so this represents continuance of life. We carry the seed of mankind. And so there's a lot of things that we still do as a Native people. But at the same time, many of my people struggle being Apache or Native American. They struggle. Personally, I have made peace with what has taken place with our people. I have walked around it. Boulders, twigs that were thrown in our path by the dominant society. I've walked around and kept looking at the beautiful flowers and the trees, the color of the clouds, and I kept my head high. But there are people that still are looking at that pile of debris that was thrown in front of them, that denied them certain things, that the white society, they say, cast before them and made them who they are, or made them how little they are. Some people struggle with that mentality to this day. But as for me, I always try to look ahead around the debris. One example is that all of the Apaches used to live up in the mountains. All of the White Mountains used to belong to the Apache. Hannigan Meadows, where there are vacation homes, Show Low, Pine Top, Flagstaff. Sedona, Oak Creek was also a very beautiful religious site for the Apache people. That is our place of emergence as Apaches. But that was taken from us. We all lived up in the high mountains. They say where the elk ran, where the trout swam, where the turkey ran, is where the Apaches also ran. We lived upwards of 5,000 to 6,000 feet elevation, and that was our home. We're one of only maybe one or two tribes in Arizona that wears Apache buckskin clothing. Heavy moccasin boots that goes up to the knees, and moccasin pants, and thick jackets, and even thick elk skin hats. And that's how we dressed. But when you go to my reservation where I'm going to be teaching tonight, I'll be driving through ocotillos, mesquite, yucca. We were taken from our beautiful homeland, and we were forced by the military to go down to San Carlos. The soldiers that were stationed there called that place Hell's 40 Acres because it was such a desolate place. But that is the place that was a prisoner of war camp. It was not a reservation. Other places were reservations where they kept the people in that area and took the rest from them. They said, we'll let you stay in a little piece of your traditional land, but we're going to take the rest. But not San Carlos. All of the Apaches who resisted to the very end were taken from their mountain ranges and they were taken to a low desert area called San Carlos, where they were severely punished, taken out of their environment. And there you found Geronimo, Victorio, Naiche, Cochise's son, all of the great chiefs and all of the people that lived in Prescott were forced to march 180 miles to San Carlos. The Yavapais, who were not Apaches here at Fort McDowell, just east of Scottsdale, they were forced to march to San Carlos, mistaken as Apaches. And so there was a mixture of all of these different tribes, the Cayoteros, the Pinaleros, the Hilaneros, all of them were mixed up. All of them were put together, along with the Chiricahuas, the Warm Springs, they were all put together on a San Carlos reservation. And so today, there's a lot of tribes that still are trying to identify themselves. One of my chores is to identify the clans in which they come from and to remind the people which clan they come from. And so I try to reinforce that with every class period to make them aware of what their true identities are, not just San Carlos people, because there was never really a San Carlos people. Even though they put us on this desolate reservation, San Carlos was reduced, I believe, 6 times. Who's from Arizona here? If you're not from Arizona, let's say this was the San Carlos Reservation right here, when it was first given to us. All of a sudden, in this area, where there is now a town called Superior, they discovered copper and silver. So they said, we're going to move the reservation in a little bit. You guys don't need all of that. So they took that slice away from us. And then down below further, Kearney, Mammoth, San Manuel, Winkleman. There were several towns down below that appeared. Mines open, silver and copper mines. We're going to make the reservation a little bit smaller. And they moved the reservation about 3-4 miles just inside. The mines were now on the other side. And then to the east, Clifton and Morenci. They were on reservation land. All of a sudden, they said, let's move this reservation this way. And so to this day, San Carlos does not have one copper mine, does not have one silver mine, but there's about a little over a dozen towns that thrive because of the mining activity of copper and silver. And so we've been removed time and time again as Apache people. And most recently, we had traditional land that was just past Superior going up the mountain called Oak Flat. In that area called Oak Flat, the Apaches used to live in that area as well. Whenever I drive through there, I'm reminded, my grandmother grew up here. If you know where Top of the World is, do you know where Top of the World is? It's between Superior and Globe. It's the highest peak. It's close to 5,000 feet. Right at the point, before you start going down the canyons into Globe, there's a place called Top of the World. And there are now trailer parks and log homes everywhere scattered throughout the some of the coniferous trees, but most of them are oak trees. And I think this used to be an Apache village, but they were forcibly removed from there and taken to San Carlos because people wanted to live in that area. They were after that land. And so we were removed time and time again. And so as an Apache, a teacher, I'm having a difficult time with my people sometimes. Sometimes they want to speak about the negative things in life. And I try to keep them on the lighter side. I remind them of different stories that keep us alive. I'll share with you a really quick story since he enjoys storytelling. A long time ago, only the Apaches lived high up in the mountains, in the White Mountains. No other tribe dared come up to the forested areas. The Apache warriors were too fierce. And so all of the mountain ranges only belonged to my people. Finally, as the years passed, new people started coming in, different colored eyes, different colored hair, beards. They had different things that they brought in, wagons, different animals, horses, pigs, cattle, chickens. We've never seen these things before. They brought them and they started settling here, here, and here. Along with bringing livestock who had never seen before, they also brought with them a disease called smallpox. And it started decimating all of the people, wiping out village upon village upon village. All the medicine men and women were sought after, and they tried to heal the people with smallpox. But smallpox was too strong for the healers. And so they all gave up. And so one last desperate act by the Apache people was to find that old man, the oldest medicine man, the one who taught all of the healers in the valley. He's the one that we should ask, they said. So covered with sores, blisters, they marched one morning to the very, very top of the mountain where the forest stopped, right at the timberline. Just above the timberline on a ridge was a little old cabin. That's where the old man decided to live, alone, away from everyone. One morning, he came out of his cabin with his fresh cup of coffee. He was about to sit down on his little chair and look out at the beautiful lay of the land below. All of a sudden, there were hordes of people right on the tree's edge. What are they doing here, he thought. Instead of sitting down, he walked to the railing and he looked at them and they all stood up. And then one spokeslady came up and said, "Old man, we've come to you in desperation. Look at our arms and our faces and our backs. We're covered with sores from this disease called smallpox. Please, please, can you help us?" All the people looked at him and he says, "I can't. I've heard about this disease. It's too strong. All the medicine healers that you went and asked to help you, I taught them. If they failed, I will fail." But they asked him a second time. They asked him a third time. They asked him a fourth time. By Apache tradition, if someone asks you for the very fourth time, that means you cannot refuse them. He goes, puts his head down. "Yes, I will help you," he said. "Please go back to your villages and please rest for 4 days. Come back on the 5th morning. If I am able to help you, then you will know. Come back on the 5th morning. And from now until then, be praying to the Creator to get help. Please go home now. You need rest." And so they were very grateful that the old man was willing to at least try to help. They all melted back into the forest, back to their villages. Meanwhile, the old man finished his coffee, had breakfast. He goes, "I have to help them." And so, with just a container of water, he went up to the highest part of the mountain, to the very peak. And there he humbled himself before the Creator. And he prayed and he prayed. "Is there some way that those people can receive help from you? I do not have the power, but you do. Please help me, Creator," he said. For 4 days he prayed. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. 4 days, drinking only water. Fasting and fasting. He grew weaker and weaker, but still he prayed. Finally, on the 5th morning, he came walking back down. As soon as he appeared by his cabin, the people were already there. They all stood up and rose. They all had a look of anticipation. The old man smiled. He says, "My people, I've spoken to the Creator, and he said he could help you." Everybody started smiling and just chatter broke out. He said, "But only because of one thing." He said, "Because of the faith that you had, that through me, the Creator could heal you." He said, "Since you came in faith, that I have power over everything, he will help you. You will heal yourselves because of your faith," he said. The old man says, "Let me eat some food here, and let me rest a little, and I will take you to where we're supposed to go." In time, the old man led the people up to the mountain higher and higher. There was a boulder sitting there. From it came a little stream of melting snow, making a huge pond waist deep. It was only seasonal. The pond only appeared when the snow was melting. In the later parts of the summer, it was dry. But at this time, it was waist deep. The old man says, "The Creator told me to bring you here. If you have enough faith, when you walk through this water, bathing yourselves, splashing all the sores with this water, the purest water from the snow, if you have the faith, when you come out on the other side of the bank, you will be healed of all the sores of smallpox." So all the people fell to their knees and they started crying, praying to the Creator. And then slowly, one by one, they went into the cold water, splashing water all over themselves. They waded across. Pretty soon, somebody said, "I felt something." The little boy said, "I feel something on my back." And the women said, "Something swam by my leg." And they all looked. When they looked in the water, there were little golden fish, like the color of our sacred pollen, which we pray with, beautiful golden yellow. And when they turned, the colors of the rainbow flashed on their sides. "Look at the fish," they said. "It has the color of the rainbow." Remember, the Creator said when all of creation gets dusty and dirty, he will wash it all clean. And when he's done cleansing the world, beautiful colors of the rainbow will appear to say, life is now fresh and clean. We're going to be clean like the rain. Look at the rainbow on their sides. And the people started praying harder, louder, having arms up in the air. They wandered slowly through the water, and more little golden fish started appearing. Every time the little fish swam against the back, the arms, or the legs of an infected Apache, the sores from their arms and their faces were transferred to the back of those little golden fish. "Look," they said, "our sores are appearing on their back. They're starting to get sprinkled with our sores. Look at, they have spots on their backs now." And every time the fish swam by another person, the sores vanished. And then finally, all of them climbed on the other side. And they fell to their knees and they cried and cried, thanking the Creator. They looked back and there were fish swimming all around in that little pond. The men said, Why are the fish here? This little pond dries up every few months. There should be no fish in there." And the old man, the medicine man, says, "Well, the Creator put fish in here for now." He said, "They are the fish people. They answered the call of the Creator to help us overcome the smallpox." And so to this day, up in the White Mountains, the Apache people honor this little golden fish with brown spots all over, with flashes of the rainbow on either side of their bodies. They are the sacred fish the Creator sent to us to save us from smallpox long ago. In all the world, nowhere in the great oceans or the seas or the bays and the mighty rivers, the streams, all the brooks and the ponds, Nowhere else on Mother Earth will these little golden fish be found except in one special place. Only in the White Mountains of Arizona, in two little streams that they call home. The ones that the melting snow emptied into long ago. To this day, we still honor these golden fish. These fish are the only native trout of Arizona. They are called the Apache trout. And this is how the fish people came to save our people at the request of the Creator long ago. This is how it was given to me long ago, and I've shared it with you. And so I have a lot of faith that my Apache people will continue to grow. I saw that banner said Jewish on there, and it reminded me of something my wife said. We were watching Schindler's List, and at the very end, remember when he was buried, all the people gathered, and they take a stone and they put it around his grave. My wife was sitting there when my brother passed away just 2 months ago. And she walks up, she goes, "Look what they're doing." I said, "Yeah, what?" She said, "They're putting stones around your brother." I said, "Yeah, we've always done that. We've been told to do that." So one of the traditions of the Apache people is when we cover the grave with dirt, the men come and gather a rock, and they walk around it first, and then with a prayer, they put down each stone until it is completely made into a circle. And then they take ash and they pray at the head of the one laying in the ground, and they sprinkle ash all the way around. And that seals the portal from this world into the spirit world. Spirit will not come back because the ash has closed and sealed the resting place. But my wife says, "I wonder if the Jewish people really do that, because your people do that all the time." So at all of our burials, we always put rocks around all those that are laid to rest. And so I just got reminded of that last scene in Schindler's List. But I've been asked to travel, and the gentleman I just met here, he asked me about Armenia. I was in Armenia so many years ago, and as the chief of the group, I was gifted a crystal sword full of 30-year-old, what was it? I don't know my drinks. One of the more fancy drinks. Cognac. It was full of cognac, 30-year-old cognac. They gave it to me. It was a beautiful crystal sword, and they put it in a box for me. And I was really happy. And so it had a handle too. And so I got on the plane from Armenia to fly over to, where was it? Azerbaijan. I went to Azerbaijan. I was proudly carrying that box. And an elder man came running to me, one of the government officials. "Sir, sir, sir." He goes, where are you from?" I said, "America." He goes, "Sir, come here, come here." He goes, "Come with me. Stand in that corner there." Did I do something wrong? He goes, "No, sir, no." He said, "You have an Armenian box, and you're now in Azerbaijan. We must put a trash bag over your box." I didn't know that, there was that conflict between the two. And so quickly they wrapped my Armenian box with a black trash bag, and then I was okay. So I've had a lot of good experiences. You remind me of that moment when you said that. I went to Armenia, and then I went to Azerbaijan, and then I went to the Georgian Republic after that. And then I went to Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. So I made the whole Marco Polo run up there. So, yep. Yeah, so I have been blessed to have seen most of the world. And so now when I go back to my reservation, I'm able to tell my people of the different people that I've met along the way in different parts of America. And I just hope that my people will look at the beautiful clouds, look at the beautiful trees, listen to the birds singing, the beautiful flowers that are just a few steps away from the debris that's been thrown in front of them. Why be focused on that? Life must be lived. Why must you always itch that sore? Let it heal. And so I'm very honored to have been here to speak to you. And I want to do some, maybe just a few minutes of Q&A, but I wanted to sing my grandmother's song before I finish. My grandmother, the one who taught me how to speak Apache, how to think Apache. She taught me how to find medicine up in the mountains as well as in the desert. She taught me how to make Apache structures that I taught my wife and children now. And so I've been blessed to build these Apache willow houses all over. One ironic thing that I did was I was teaching in Austria, just outside Vienna, at an old castle. Uh, I built a beautiful wiki up Apache house. And there people gathered in front of me, and I talked about the value of life, respect for culture. And high above me, suddenly I saw formations of bombers heading over to Slovenia, to Kosovo. And so I was trying to speak on the value of life with the buzz of warplanes going over my head. And so I've had a lot of experiences in my life. I want to go ahead and sing this song to my grandmother, actually. My grandmother is my teacher. This is an Apache lullaby song. And my grandmother, I remember sitting underneath a small mesquite tree one summer. I was maybe 8 years old. My sister, my two brothers, and I were just chasing one another, as we always did, running around outside. And my grandmother was sitting outside. There were shavings of yucca all around because she was thinning the stalks of the yucca to make into the backing of the cradle board on which the baby was to sleep on. And she was just cutting away at that soft wood. I could see her in traditional cloth dress. All of a sudden, I stopped because I heard her start humming and singing. My two brothers and sister kept running, but I froze and I stood there, and I wanted to hear the rest of her song. And she sang a most beautiful song as she was making a cradle for a new member of a family that just been born. She was singing a lullaby song. Yo, hey, yo, hey, ya, hey, ya, hey, yo. Yo, hey, yo, hey, ya, hey, yo, hey, yo, hey, ya, hey, yo. Shijaje, jone kusinti, shijaje. Oh, wayo, wayo, hey, yo, hey, yo, hey, ha, ya, waya, hey, ha, waya, hey, ha, waya, hey, yo. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Shijaje, jone kusinti, shijaje. Wayo, wayo, hey, yo. We are, we are, We are, we are, hey you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. It is always so wonderful to hear your experiences. I have a question about when your people's land was taken, what years did that start and how long did it progress?
Well, we had the first contact with Europeans with the Spanish, but the Spanish were not here to settle. They were looking for riches. They had great success in South and Central America, so they were looking for more gold for Spain. So they just kept moving along. Our name for Spanish are Nacayet, it means the marchers. They just marched by looking for someplace else to find gold. But the Spanish did not stay. The Hispanic people, they were afraid of the Apaches, so they stayed clear of us. And so if you look on an Arizona map, there's no Spanish mission or settlement in this part of Arizona. If you ever notice that, it's all clear, straight down this way, Spanish and Mexican, but over here, all Apache. And then in the 1820s, 1800s, the white American settlers started coming in. And that's when the land grabs started. It was in the 1810, 1820.
Thank you. I have two quick questions. Number one, is there any organized reparation movement among the indigenous peoples in this country following the model of the Jews in vis-a-vis post-war Germany or the current African American push for reparations is number one. And number two, we seem to be at a moment in American history when part of the federal agenda is to erase the American story, essentially massage it, retell it. How does the indigenous communities respond to what is going on?
Okay, for the first question, I have not noticed any benefits that are still due to people for what they have gone through. As far as I know, it's, have you heard anything, Doreen? No?
Well, we've had treaties and they've broken.
Yes.
They've broken a lot of
Three.
treaties. Oh, sorry. I just came to my mind is that we had treaties. If they took a certain amount of land from our people, then we were supposed to receive healthcare, education, and we did receive that, but it kept shrinking and shrinking. Even though our population would grow, the appropriations for healthcare or education dwindled. And so today, like many people, I mean, we struggle for higher education, we struggle for our for healthcare.
Yeah, we were supposed to be getting healthcare, but it's very bare minimum. It's through the Indian Health Service, you know, and most of the medical teams are from the medical corps. You know, if they are assigned to different places as military personnel to serve as a medical this and that on the reservations. But once their tour of duty was over, they left, you know, and so it's never really progressed. They were just there doing their time and then they left. But my tribe has jumped over the Indian Health Service and they took the funding straight from Washington, and we run our own hospital now. And we go and recruit surgeons, dental surgeons, specialists in diabetes and everything from the East Coast. And so on my reservation, we actually are probably the only tribe around here that has an MRI machine. So, you know, that's an expensive machine, but we're still struggling. The benefits were never really given out. And so we're at a stalemate. Some of the other people have received, you know, back pay, as you call it, for that, but not Native Americans.
And I'll add from a Canadian perspective, we've had reparations in 4 residential schools. that were based on boarding schools here, but they're outsourced to the churches, especially the Catholic Church. But despite reparations, a Truth and Reconciliation Commission with 94 points. A lot of it's performative in the sense that the First Nations think tank that reports on it stopped because it's moving in glacial time. They said for all 94 points to be implemented, they're at a rate of 2078 to implement them all. So, you know, they've made these promises too, just like broken treaties, right? Like even a Truth and Reconciliation Commission that's really not being followed through in any meaningful way. I believe we have a couple online questions, and then Steve will go to you.
The first one is, she wants to know about the removal from the boarding schools by social workers. When did that happen versus what you were talking about as in terms of the social workers coming to homes on the reservation?
Okay. Well, to begin with, the really severe, brutal way of educating our children was by forced removal.
Yeah.
They went to the homes and by force, the military backing them up, the Indian agent, and they went and just plucked the children from the families, and by force, against the protests of the parents' families, they were taken to boarding schools far away, sometimes mostly out of state. So that was the first phase, and they were told to assimilate. They needed to assimilate, that they no longer should be deemed as Native Americans. Our founding fathers actually looked at us as a stumbling block. I think in the Constitution too, I forgot what they mentioned us. What did they say about us? I think savages or something of that sort. But that's in the Constitution when they were referring to the Native people. And we were a nuisance to them. We were just in the way. So to ease their conscience, they came up with the term manifest destiny, God's will.
Okay.
But second question, the social workers they came into play maybe in the 50s and in the 60s, because then, the soldiers were gone. It wasn't a military controlled reservation anymore. And so the social workers were brought in, and there were some social workers that were okay, but there are some, like in my case, they were dealing with families that wanted children, and they were promising children to raise. And so they actively sought out children to take away from families, even though they were functioning perfectly fine, just fulfill the request or the quota of the requests by the state.
Yeah, thank you very much for your comments. I was struck by something you said earlier in the talk. You remarked that you're now able to look past or around elements of the past that others in your community have not been able to do or don't do. And if I've mischaracterized anything you've said, please correct me. But it struck me. I was very curious. How did you get there? And is this? And how do you engage with members of your community on that, on your ability to do that?
First of all, it has to do with my personality. I'm a people person, so I have a very good sense of humor. I can joke with just anyone at the gas station. My family makes fun of me. They said, "Did Dad make some more friends at the gas station, the gas pump?" Or anywhere. I waitresses, pilots, flight attendants, mechanics, plumbers that come in. I get to know their backstory. They get to know me, and it's just my personality that allowed me to deal with that. But you know what's funny? I've kind of come around now. It's starting to bother me a little bit more now because I think I'm getting older. And every time I drive past Superior going up the mountain, I see the beautiful boulders, the beautiful canyons, and there's a river stream down below. All of that is going to be destroyed by making it into an open pit mine. You're gonna see towers of dirt piled up there from debris from the mining activity, and it's starting to bother me now. Before, it didn't bother me at all, but now as I'm getting older, I'm beginning to realize that there are hints of my feeling pain for what has happened here. You know, like when I hear about Yosemite National Park, beautiful, beautiful. But if you knew the backstory behind it, the indigenous people that lived in Yosemite did not want to move. That was their traditional land. They kept saying, ranchers said, we want to buy you out. They said, no, this is where our ancestors were buried. We want to stay here. So ranchers, settlers kept trying to get in, but the military, the government protected the native people that called Yosemite home. One day the ranchers said, you know what? We're going to just make friends with you. We live just outside this beautiful place, but we want to have a party. We're going to have a barbecue for you guys. So they set up big tables and they had barbecue meat, all the food you could have, and all kinds of drinks. And they invited all the villagers to come. Well, for some reason, the white people were not eating or drinking. Soon, the entire village was poisoned. They cleansed Yosemite National Park of the indigenous community. Oh, this tells me I better shut up. I've got 5 more minutes, it tells me. Yeah, but that bothers me now. That bothers me now that that happened. And at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, I have some very good friends called the Supai people, Havasupai people. Right now, they're struggling with uranium mines trying to come into the area and polluting their drinking water with radioactive tailings. And so I go down to visit my friends. I don't have to worry about the 2 or 3 year waiting list. I just call my friends. Catch a helicopter down below, but it's a beautiful place, but they're being threatened by that. And it's starting to bother me now. When I look around, I don't see beautiful things, just beautiful things like I used to. Now I'm thinking, oh, this could be destroyed soon, what's going to happen? So yeah, my personality was one. So when I go teach my class tonight at 5 o'clock, we have a theme. What's the theme, Doreen? Yes, I am happy. So as soon as they come into my classroom, I am happy takes place. So the whole theme is I am happy. In Apache, we say Shishgojon. That means I am happy. So nothing negative is discussed in my class. Only uplifting, constructive, happy, funny things. So everybody's laughing and joking around. And I'm trying to get them to be more in a positive state. That's what I'm doing, one classroom at a time.
One last question.
I guess I'll be the last one. There you go. So thank you again. That was a very, very interesting speech. We can call that. My last question for you is kind of like we've been saying from the very beginning, learn from our past to be able to move forward and create better futures. Knowing that everything that's going on and everything that everybody just mentioned and how you were saying how it's a continuous pattern of just kind of destruction of the environment, the reservations become smaller, treaties are broken. You can tackle this question the way you think is best, but my question is, how do you think that Native people can build more resilient, become more resilient really in this changing environment?
I think resilience is based on, once again, for me, being strong within. That's what resilience is. Don't be like an oak tree. Don't be too sturdy, because be more like the willow, bend with the wind, the storms. And so I went to a funeral of an old friend of mine one time. And at his casket, his three big, strong, 6'4", 6'5", stocky sons came up, and they looked down and looked at him, and they started crying. They started buckling down and trying to hold one another. Their little mother in her 80s came shuffling up. She stood between them, and she stood strong. And then she put her arms around them, and she whispered to each one of them. That little lady was stronger in here than her big, physically bulking sons. So it's not what you have here, it's what you have here and in here. So resilience is something that is based on inner strength. So I'm trying to teach my people to be strong in that way again, to be strong in here. Because we need to be resilient right now, especially when you turn on the TV and you see all of the news about what's going on everywhere, not just in one part of the country, but everywhere. Not just, yeah. So you have to be careful. You have to almost give yourself a hard shell. So, yeah, it is hard, but I'm trying my best to get people to be more flexible with things and to be more resilient. That's a good word, resilient.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Speak and share. And I also want to give a shout out to Ken and Doreen's Yellowbird Productions with the hoop dancing. And if you get an opportunity, Google it, look them up, follow them. Their hoop dancing performances is something to behold. And it's important to remember too, joy can be part of resistance, and cultures or people are more than their trauma. So we'll resume at 2:30 for Genocide and Democracy. And so we'll be taking about a 15-minute break and resuming thereafter.
Thank you.
Thank you.